A brief opening statement about what our PC team is putting out there to make our education system the best in the world, and then glad to take any questions you may have. And also I have some of my candidates here from the Peel region. Nina Tangri, my immediate right. Nina's our Mississauga Streetsville candidate, and Rashid Gill, who is the Mississauga Brampton South candidate, and Randeep Sandhu, who is our candidate in Brampton West. So they'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have as well, to reflect what they're hearing from parents and students and teachers in Peel region. The Ontario PCs believe that an education system that prepares our children for the real world, for future employment, is the way we need to go. We need to make sure that our students are graduating with the skills, the talent, and the experience they need to take on the new challenges of the 21st century. But if they go through a school system for 14 years that tells them that hard work doesn't matter, that deadlines mean nothing, or that failure has no consequences, that's not going to help them cope with the real world when they graduate. And that's not the Ontario way. And that's not what attracted so many families here to our province. They want to see a strong education system that puts the kids first, with high quality and high standards in our classrooms. All week I've been talking about the direction the Ontario PC Party believes education needs to go in our province. Tomorrow, my PC education critic Lisa MacLeod and I will be laying out our latest white paper called Path to Prosperity. But I want to tell you a bit about what's going to be in that paper tomorrow. Number one, we want to make sure that parents can get full report cards. The parents can have parent-teacher interviews after 3 o'clock. That if a student needs that extra help with learning with mathematics, learning to read, the teacher will be there to stay after school to help them out. So basically, we want to clearly define what the role of a teacher is so that our students aren't held to ransom like we're seeing in our schools today. This is why teachers get into the job in the first place. They care about our kids. They want to be there after school helping the kids learn. But right now in Ontario, if a teacher were to stay after school for even half an hour to help out a child who is having challenges with mathematics, she could be fined $500 by her union and named and shamed. That's wrong. We want to protect those teachers, help them do their jobs, and ensure parents get timely information about their kids. Second change we want to bring, sports and artistic activities are part of the school experience. They help take what you learn in the classroom and apply it to real-life situations. Things like leadership, teamwork, hard work. And teachers that get into teaching, they want to do the coaching. They want to do the drama club. They want to make sure our kids have that full learning experience. But right now they're being intimidated by their union not to do these things. Now listen, nobody can force a teacher what to do in their voluntary time, but nobody should be able to force them not to do these things if they so choose. So we will bring forward changes in our labor law to protect those teachers so they won't be bullied by the teacher unions and they can bring back the sports and the arts clubs into our schools. Secondly, we would give principals more ability to actually recognize what the great teachers are doing in our schools. So during the school day, they could be relieved from some of the supervisory duties because they're there at night, they're there at weekends, they're doing the class trips. Let the principals recognize and reward excellence in our system. If there's a teacher out there who's coaching the soccer team, who's staying after school to help do the school play, who's taking the kids on school trips, I want to reward that, not punish it. Give the principals the authority to help encourage that in our schools. And third change that we're going to bring forward, I think that decisions should be made in our school system by those who are closest to our kids and to the parents. If we want to have the best education system possible, we need to trust more those who are there in the schools, the principals and the teachers, as opposed to the Liberal and the NDP approach, which is more decisions from the school boards, the education bureaucrats, or the teachers' unions. So we will trust the principals to make more decisions, to hold them accountable, but also relieve them of this duty where they're spending more time with superintendents and filling out paperwork than they are with the kids and the students. Give principals more decision-making authority and reduce the number of bureaucrats at the school board who are duplicating what a principal should do. And finally, we want to strengthen our curriculum by bringing a stronger focus to science and mathematics. It gives all of us great concern that two of the essential skills that we're going to need to attract great jobs down the road in Ontario compared to the rest of the world, science and math skills. But we've seen our test scores actually go downhill in those areas. We're spending more on education. It's up $8.5 billion. We actually have 250,000 fewer kids in our schools, more money for fewer kids. And what are the results? Our test scores have gone down in math and science. They've stayed constant in literacy. And now you can't even get a parent-teacher interview in some circumstances, and kids can't do after-school activities. We've got to change that's going to make sure we have the best quality education system to get our kids ready for those big challenges in the 21st century. So there's my introductory comments on what we've announced so far and a bit of a preview for tomorrow. Happy to take any questions that you may have.
What's your take on the repealing of Bill 115?
Well, you know, you're either in favor of a wage freeze or you're against it. I think that the Liberals are talking on both sides of the mouths on this issue. The PC party believes that a necessary step to get our budget balanced is a wage freeze across the board. So that's for all of us in government, so teachers, also firefighters, doctors, include us as MPPs. We would do it for a minimum of 2 years. It would save us $2 billion a year. You can't be on both sides of this issue. And I worry the Liberals now throwing out the window the one thing that they've even tried to do in this direction, signals are going to open the floodgates for more spending, and taxpayers can't afford that.
We have heard news today that report is finding that this 115 bill is not going to make much difference as far as deficit in the province is concerned. What do you think? How is it going to help economically?
Well, I'll tell you, let me be clear about this. Bill 115 was not our preferred approach. Our preferred approach was to be across the board for everybody, including MPPs. And I think you would have much more success in getting agreement from the teachers if you treated everybody equally. So whether you're a teacher, you're a doctor, you're a politician, you treat everybody the same for 2 years. The savings are $2 billion. That's a lot of money, but it's only a first step in wrestling down what could be a $30 billion deficit. So do I think it makes progress? Well, it depends now. They seem to have drawn a line in the sand, the government, and they're backing away. I worry the next Liberal leader is going to try to throw more money at the unions, but not solving the real underlying problems. How are we going to get the activities back in our schools? How are we going to raise the standards in math, in science, in financial literacy that our kids are going to need to compete? And it doesn't help our kids to push them through the system if they're getting no accountability for handing in assignments late or not on time. I mean, it might help their image when they're in school, their self-esteem. They're in for a rude awakening when they get in the real world. We need to raise the standards and protect the teachers who want to do those extra activities.
How you are going to implement these policies?
Let me, I'll address that, and then I'm going to have...
are you bringing any private member bill or?
I'll address that, and I think my colleagues will want to say a few words about what they're hearing from parents in Peel Region. We're laying out our ideas, and I think these are the right ideas. They come from my colleagues here at the table, but also come from parents. They come from teachers. They come from students. And the students don't care how it gets done, as long as it gets done. So they can count on playing on the soccer team. They can count on being there for the extra help after school. And parents should be able to have a chance to talk to the teachers on how their son or daughter is doing outside of school hours. I think that's what the teachers want too. They know that 3 o'clock, the last bell, doesn't mean the day is over. A lot happens after 3. I mean, look, this is not some sort of factory in the 1950s when the whistle blows, everybody leaves. That's not what our kids are about. There's a human relationship between them and the teachers. We want to protect that. So I agree with the students and the parents. I don't care how it gets done as long as it gets done. So if the House comes back, if it's a private member's bill, if the government wants to do it, or if we form the next government, we'll do it. I just want to see it get done. It's the right thing. You want to edit?
In reference to your remarks, Mr. Hudak.
Let me, if you don't mind, I'll just let my colleagues say, because they want to give perspective what's happening here in Peel Region.
Yes, but it is an indirect question to all of them and directly to you. In reference to your opening remarks, or whatever plan you have laid out, have you had any response by the NDP or Liberals for that matter in reference to this? A. B. Like we are already in the Liberal leadership election, which is just around the corner, do you think it's going to bring any better change for the province, or it's the same old story with another face?
You always hope for change because we can't keep down the path that we're on today. Our deficit is too deep. We're not creating jobs, good jobs in our province. And in areas that are crucial, like education or the pressures in health in Peel Region, the government is failing taxpayers badly. I do hope that a new leader may finally start adopting some of the ideas we think are right for the province. However, I do worry that that won't be the case because I've not heard a new idea of the Liberal leadership contenders. I've not heard them put new ideas on the table on jobs, on reining in spending. The first part of your question was how are they reacting to our policies?
Both NDP and Liberal.
Well, they're kind of the same. And, you know, disappointingly, they've been against our policies. I think these policies are the right thing for our kids, for the quality of education, the right thing for parents, and the right thing for classroom teachers. It seems like the Liberal and NDP are competing to see who can get closest to the teacher union bosses. They want their campaign contributions. I understand that. I just think what's most important is the quality of our kids' education. I hope they'll read our paper and they'll endorse some of these policies, but so far it's been a negative response and that's regrettable. You guys want to add to that?
When the alarm bells went off in Greece and all the economies that are struggling, and nothing, there was really not much that the governments could do at that point, and eventually the nations ended up where they ended up now. And this is a high time for Ontario to sort of catch up on this. Our debt level is at 40%. And it's never been that high. And I'm concerned about my son. I came to Ontario. It was a very progressive province at that point. And now my son's growing up, and we're having to pay $11 billion just to service the debt we've taken. Where's all the money coming from? So we're constantly borrowing to appease everybody, all the unions, and eventually, you know, that's hurting us now. $11 billion is a lot of money, and we can do a lot of things with $11 billion if we balanced our budget.
I would definitely like to add something which Randeep said. We are meeting with teachers, parents, and my son also goes to the same school. He's also taking a public education, and the concern we are hearing is they want a system which can work for students, which can work for teachers, and where they can get the better education and make their make another step towards the future and career of them. So we all know that debt level is very high. It's almost $250 billion. Our deficit is staggering every single day. We need to take certain steps, and our leader and PC party has advised that across the board wage freeze is what we are going to do, and we are going to implement the policies that are better for Ontario.
Nina, do you want to add to that?
Sure.
Move that one over.
Okay, I have.
I'll just give Nina a chance to move.
I'll just chip in and then, yeah. So, I mean, let's face it, many of us here are parents ourselves. We know parents. I have a lot of relatives who are teachers as well, and friends, and they just want to do their job. They want to be in the classroom teaching the children what they know best. And we have to give them the ability to do that. Now, money's money. We've seen it. We know it's difficult to come by. It's your hard-earned tax money. You entrust our government to use that money wisely and efficiently, and that's not been happening over the last decade. We have to make sure Tim Hudak as our Premier and us as MPPs will make sure that your money is well looked after, used efficiently, used responsibly, because it's high time that we all did that. So how do we do that? We find efficiencies in our system. Currently, there is so much money that's being wasted where we can save so much money, right? That's our first job to do. Then we have to make sure the money that is there is used where it needs to be used. There are very, very important social programs like education and health that we have to make sure that there's enough money for. In order to do that, we have to make sure that the right money is going to the right places, is dedicated to the right places. So having said all of that, how do we make sure? First, we have to get the right government in place. And in order to do that, we have to ask all of your help to make sure that an Ontario PC government is the next government. It's as simple as that to start with. Once that has been done, we will make sure, and that's our word to all of you and to the people of this province, that we will make sure all of your money is spent wisely, productively, and that our children will benefit from that, because our children will be doing what they need to do, and that's learn. And it's learn to be real people in the adult world, and how do they find the jobs where the jobs are needed. We're going to work with a lot of companies, small businesses, large corporations, so they can come and tell us what it is that they need, so our children will be learning towards those needs. Then I'll pass it back to our leader, and if you have some more questions.
Please, go ahead. Thanks, Nina.
Definitely, you know what, thank you, Nina ji. And Mr. Hudak, I can see that with Nina's remark that election seems like closer than we think. Okay. But however, my question is this, that would you make this education issue as an election issue? That's one part. And another thing is that you mentioned in the last, media roundtable conference as well, that you want this freeze, as you suggested, that for not for only for teachers, for all across all the government services.
Yes.
So, how realistic? Supposedly, election happens, you become premier, and you implement this. How long realistically you want to put that freeze on?
Okay.
And by the way, I have a student here too. He's my son too. He came here, so he will have his perspective, whatnot, as a student.
Where do you go to school?
Mississauga.
Yep.
Just finished, going to York University.
Good for you. What are you going to take at York?
General.
Good. There you go. So a couple of good questions there. So will there be an election happening soon? It's entirely possible. You never know. There's that old expression, 2 weeks is a lifetime in politics. My point is, if it does happen, we're laying out our plan. And it's a very different plan than the Liberal or the NDP, who want to keep things the same. Ours is about creating jobs in our province, making sure we get the books back in balance so we don't put more debt on the next generation, and making sure we get value for taxpayers' dollars. Will I make education an election issue? Well, somebody's got to do something. And I think it's wrong that parents can't meet with teachers after school to see how their son or daughter is doing. It's wrong that the unions are intimidating teachers from staying after school to help somebody who has special needs learn to read or be fined $500. I mean, that's just wrong. We put our plan out there. The sooner we get at it, the better. Our kids should be able to count on after-school activities, and our parents should be able to count on timely information and meetings with teachers and report cards, and the teachers want to do that.
How realistic the freeze?
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry I went on too long with that first answer.
Yeah.
On the freeze issue, we would the sooner we get to it, the better. The problem is right now we're digging a deeper hole. So the first rule when you're in a hole, you put down the shovel. And so that's why a wage freeze immediately is important. And we're not I may be the only, our party may be the only party that's suggesting this in Ontario. It's been done elsewhere. British Columbia has done a wage freeze. Quebec has done a wage freeze. Out east, President Obama did one with the national government, the states. Prime Minister Cameron, United Kingdom. Countries around the world that face debt have acted. Ontario has just gone on the same path, and it's dragging us deeper and deeper. It's time for a change.
So realistically, the whole term, I wanted to put a time.
2 years.
2 years, 4 years.
2 years.
When you supposedly you get elected, so you'll put the job, the wage freeze for how long?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
2
Yep.
years.
Minimum of 2 years, and it would save us $2 billion each year.
Okay. Any just supplement in it that however you are going to put the freeze on the wages to improve the education system. Are you going to allot some money for the students, or in another, as you mentioned, extracurricular activities after 3 o'clock work? So you have any plan towards it? Anything news towards it?
We'll be announcing some more details tomorrow. But I think any politician that comes to the media and says they're going to spend a lot more money is not being honest. If somebody says that they can balance a $15 billion deficit without cutting spending, they're either naive or they think you are, right? So I think any area, if you promote more spending, you got to show where you're going to find those savings. So my point is using resources better. And I think our school boards have become too top-heavy. They're too expensive, too many bureaucrats at the school boards instead of being in the classroom. So we propose reducing the number of people at our school boards, including the superintendent positions, that basically duplicate the job of a principal. I should usually add this in my opening comments. You know, I'm proud to say I'm the son of two educators. My dad's a retired principal, and my mom was a special needs teacher. And it frustrates me when I hear from principals, they spend most of their time filling out paperwork, meeting with superintendents, instead of being at the schools. So there's an area where you can find savings. I think in terms of our emphasis in our schools, we have to realize that money can move anywhere in the world, investment for businesses. And I hear from businesses that we're not doing enough to get our students ready for the work world. So I think we need to emphasize more the math and science part of our curriculum, because we're talking about jobs in the 21st century, not the last one. And I think we could do a lot more when it comes to financial literacy. When students graduate from school, they're going to have a lot of challenges about things like car loans, mortgages, tuition. They'll be tempted with credit cards. Helping them understand financial markets is crucial to their success in Ontario and Canada in 2013. And the third area I would stress is I think we can do a lot more for trades. Skilled trades in our province, those that are precision machine operators, electricians, plumbers, we undervalue that in our education system. And we have a plan to work with our colleges, modernize our labor laws that create 200,000 good jobs there. What I like about those jobs too, they pay well, but also a lot of people then will start their own small business, and the cycle will then continue. So areas you'll see us focus on, math and science, financial literacy, and doing more in our skilled trades.
So taking you away from this discussion that we are having today or what we are here for, you being a leader of a provincial political party of Ontario, would you have to say anything or would you have any knowledge about the immigration laws? I know it's not your jurisdiction, it's federal, that are being abused. Just recently, a Pakistani religious scholar who applied for a refugee status here, got his credentials, went back and created havoc being a Canadian citizen. So would you tell the federal government if you are elected as a premier at some point to have a strong fist on the relaxed immigration laws, that it's free for all sort of a thing?
I don't know all the details. I remember I did read some of this in the media. I can't comment with authority on all of the details. But you know what strikes me is, and I've known Jason Kenney for a long time, even before he was a minister. I think he's on the right track in doing the following, and my colleagues can comment on this. Making sure that we are attracting to our province job creators, entrepreneurs who are going to help contribute their skills to Ontario and build a stronger economy. On the other hand, he wants to make sure that people are not taken advantage of. And I know we've had the problem with a lot of consultants that are taking advantage of people. I know Jason Kenney wants to clear that up.
That went on in Pakistan.
Yeah, again, I appreciate this.
If you are aware of that, your liberal counterparts, the leadership race, whoever they are not even aware of it.
So it seems to me that the third point is part of that is going to bring up Minister Kenney, is I think he wants to make sure that our immigration system is transparent, that it's fair, and that it protects honest individuals, gives them a chance in life, and for those that are abusing the system to stop that abuse, whether they're consultants or people taking advantage of our immigration laws. So it may not be perfect, but I think he's moving it in the right direction.
So you would take notice of that on a personal level if you are the leader?
For sure. And we've absolutely. And secondly, I think there's some opportunities here. I think we can do a lot more. So the issue with the cleric aside, I think we can do a lot more for the provincial nominee program. As an Ontarian, one thing I take great pride in is that Ontario was always the first choice for new Canadians who wanted to make their way in the world. We were always number one. And it alarms me when we're fading, when more and more new Canadians, particularly those who want to start businesses or contribute their skills to our province, are choosing to go to British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and Alberta ahead of Ontario. I can't blame them. There are more jobs there, but we should be number one. And secondly, there's the education class immigration option that we could do a better job in. So so immigrants who come as students to our province and are in our universities or colleges open up a pathway, if they want to become Canadians, to become Canadians, because they're developing great skills. They're going through our universities and colleges today. So there's another path I think we need to encourage. A couple of ideas that Ontario has let slip, but I would engage in my conversations with Minister Kenney to give us more opportunities here in our province.
Mr. Hudak, I'm also here from Macau.
Yeah.
Are you talking about, with the proposals here, are you talking about making it mandatory for the teachers of the after-school program, and if and how are you going to get there by legislation or by negotiation of the contract?
Yep.
And is there any financial impact? I mean, extra funding for that?
Okay, remind me of the financial part, because I want to get back to it, because it's a good question. There's a lot of detail here. So I'll answer the first part, then I want to talk about the pay side. Basically, we want to make sure that what we define as co-instructional activity, so things related to the academic performance of our students. So meeting with kids after school, before school, or at lunch hour to help those who are falling behind or those that are excelling if they want to do additional work. Making sure that report cards are marked on time with full information for parents, parent-teacher interviews. All of this should be defined clearly as part of the teacher's job. Teachers believe that's part of that. This is what parents did. But right now, the Liberals have watered that down. It's not clear, and the unions are now pushing the teachers not to meet parents after school, and that's wrong. So we would make mandatory these activities as part of a teacher's job, and that's what the classroom teachers want to do. And this would then relieve the ability of the unions to pressure the teachers or hold the students and parents hostage, and was a work to rule is what they call it. The second stage is voluntary activities. So that's coaching the sports teams, the arts clubs. I don't believe you can force anybody to do anything on their voluntary time, but you should not be able to force them not to do it either. I mean, you can't imagine that, for example, the auto workers union would tell one of our skilled auto workers at Chrysler that he can't coach the hockey team. Right? You can't imagine a police association telling their police officers that she can't coach soccer in the summertime. It's ludicrous. But we're allowing the teachers union to say that to the teachers. So we are bringing protections in the law to ensure the teachers who want to coach those activities do so. And part of that, too, is giving principals a flexibility to say, if this great teacher is spending all of her time after school, coaching, all that activity, then relieve her from some of the supervisory duties during the day so she can focus on that, how she contributes to the whole school. Does that make sense in how the two? Part of it's mandatory. The volunteer activities will protect their ability to do that. And you asked about pay. So the answer to your question is right now we're in a $15 billion deficit. We're heading towards a $30 billion deficit. So we actually have to go the other direction and reduce spending. And that's why one of our policies is an across-board wage freeze for everybody, including the MPPs. I do think, though, that we should get to the day where we recognize performance in our teachers, that a teacher's pay should not be simply on how many years they've been on the job or the self-improvement courses, but how they're contributing to that school. So if there's a teacher who's performing minor miracles and helping some kid with a learning disability learn the joy of reading a book, if she's coaching the teams, if she's doing everything possible to create that great environment for a kid's success, she should be rewarded for that with higher pay than those who are not.
But it's going to be after the financial situation.
Yeah, we've got you got it. We have to do a pay freeze for a minimum of 2 years to get out of the hole. Long term, I would enter into negotiations with the unions to have performance pay for our teachers. I think we need to reward excellence in our schools and attract the best and brightest, because they're going to be preparing our kids for a real different world than I grew up in. You bet.
Can I
Sure,
add
yeah.
a little bit here? There's a social phenomena called the Joe Harry window. And with the Joe Harry window, like once the teachers, the students, and the parents sort of interact, it may be informal or it may be formal after 3 o'clock. It'll bring much more energy to the system. Right now, like it's a one-way message. You know, the student learns certain thing, and then there's no connection between what the parents are going to tell him at home. And if the parents-teacher interaction increases, the messaging that goes out to the student is even more powerful.
Would you encourage the idea of utilizing email between parents and teachers
Yep.
to improve communication?
For sure. And here's one of the issues that that has come to the attention of our education critic, Lisa McLeod, that teachers have been told that they can't do emails even by the union outside of school hours, and that's wrong. And teachers want to do that. I mean, I know that we benefit from that. From my daughter's teacher, she's very caring. She gives information about how her daughter is doing. As a parent, you love that sort of thing, and you appreciate the teacher takes the time to do that. It's wrong for the unions to try to stop that. We want to protect teachers, and we want to encourage it, not punish it.
taking teacher out of the clutches of the unions, don't you think you are going on head-on collision with the unions, and how are you going to deal with that in case it's going to transfer you?
Well, there's a choice. I mean, you could line up with the union bosses, or you could line up with parents and the students and the teachers who want to teach. I'd choose the parents and the students and the teachers who want to teach. My friends in the Liberal and the NDP, they want to get behind the union. They've got a lot of money for donations, campaigns. I understand that. But this is about how our kids are going to succeed in the future. And if we don't improve our education system, the jobs are going to go to other countries. Our kids are not going to have the life that we want to see for our kids. So I know there's a risk in the donation side, but you know what? I want to line up for the students, the parents, and the teachers.
And hijacking the system is not very democratic either.
You know, it's not about PCs, Liberals, or NDPs. It's about the real people out there. The kids, the parents, you know, they're what matter. You are what matters. And we have to make sure that we bring a format out there that makes it a better province to live, to work, to raise a family. Currently, the NDP and the Liberals, they've forgotten about the real people. And that's what we have to improve.
And sometimes for some kids, like I probably like a lot of you around the table. I mean, I love doing the sports when I was in school, you know. I love playing. You're looking at me, fine athlete, right? What happened to you, Tim? You've gone downhill. But, you know, I like playing football, and I played basketball. I got to go to the Ontario Championships in badminton, and it was fun. Was the editor of the school paper at one point in time. And what this did was it strengthened skills that you learn about in the classroom, but you can develop. And this is one of the reasons, sometimes that's the only reason why a student is going to finish their degree or their diploma, because they enjoy these activities outside of the classroom. And we all know if you don't even finish your high school diploma, you're going to have a tough time out there in the job market. These are important activities. We want to make sure they're protected.
Time for 2 more questions.
Tim, you said,
Hi.
like Nina just said that we have to start thinking about the common people. That's the students, the parents, and all. But teachers also belong to that category.
Exactly.
They are common people too.
Exactly.
And secondly, I joined in late, but I don't know. Have you all interacted with the teachers? Like, you all don't want to side with the union, but do the teachers want to stay away from being unionized?
I think, let me tell you, I know my own family. My dad being a retired principal, my mom was a special ed teacher, my sister's a high school teacher, and they're saddened by what's been happening out there, and they feel that the union is pulling down the reputation of the profession of teachers. And all of us have heard from teachers that say, I just want to teach. I want to be with their kids. I want to help them out. That's why I got into this job in the first place. I want to coach a team. I want to take that trip to Ottawa with the grade 8 class. They want to do this. And I don't think the teachers or the kids or the parents really care how it's done as long as it's done. But we can't stay paralyzed like this because it's hurting our kids.
I must say that especially about the education, this was business, trade, job creation. Everything was put always in every election, before election or afterwards, as a priority. But I must thank you and the PC party for bringing education to the front side. And I think even in last meeting too, you brought this subject. Even this issue is this time too. So it seems like it is going to become a more important issue. My point is this, are you thinking about whole educational reform in that terms? Because still the system, whatever we have it here, I did not study here, my both kids are studying. And of course, this job to, rule to work has affected even, one of my kids was in the high school, and he was going in the drama classes, and that is stopped. He was playing lead role on it, and it stopped. And that those things literally is affecting their future too, because after next year he won't be able to do that.
Yeah.
So these things. So are you planning about some full-formed reform in the once you get elected? Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah. Well, the answer is yes. I think we need significant change in our education system. There are a lot of things that are right about it. I mean, I think we have very well qualified teachers in our system. In many parts of the province, we have new schools, although some are crumbling. We start from a good foundation over time, but we're not keeping up with the challenges of the 21st century. I'll explain what I mean by that. I graduated from high school. It was grade 13 in those days, 1986. And the world has changed a lot since then. There are other countries that are developing fast, that are taking our jobs. Back then, you could be assured you get a pretty good job, right? And today we're not seeing that. So how do we have to adjust? Number one, I think we need to strengthen math and science in our schools. Financial literacy is certainly a greater challenge today. I think we should put that in our school curriculum. And third, we're not seeing as many students get into the trades, and we know those are good jobs. They're highly entrepreneurial. We need to do more to partner with our colleges on the trades. So I think that's a change that we need to make now in 2013, that we're losing track, we're losing time. Secondly, quite frankly, we've seen these actions from the teacher union against parties of all stripes, sorry, let me say that again. We've seen the teachers union take these actions against all three political parties now, the NDP, the PCs, and the Liberals. And I just do not think that the union should be able to hold our kids hostage and parents hostage in a labor dispute. This is not an assembly line. They're not screwing, screws into a product here. We're kids we're talking about. And therefore, I think that things should be protected are the school experience of those children, the after-school activities, the ability to be with a teacher after school, to make sure that they're not losing this crucial time because you can't get it back. And that's why we need to make that structural change as well, to protect the teachers who want to stay after school, recognize that in the question earlier on, reward those who are contributing to the overall school program, not just between 9 and 3. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Nina, you've had a couple of kids that have recently gone through the school system. Anything you wanted to add in terms of your?
No, the one thing that on the parent-teacher interviews, the one question I always asked the teachers was, what can I do as a parent to improve my child's education? And they're not even able to do that anymore. But my kids' teachers were wonderful because we did email back and forth quite a lot. So from that perspective, you mentioned about emailing. I think that's a very important part because, everyone's busy, even though we all have cell phones throughout the day.
Yeah.
That correspondence is a quick way to be able to talk to the teachers. And I think it's definitely the way of the future. And our children really, really are our future. We have to make sure that we pave the right path for them.
Yep. But the internet doesn't close down at 3 o'clock.
Just one, as a parent,
Yeah.
my child, one of my son is going to grade 11, and he's thinking of going to Schulich school. Now, the first requirement for Schulich is the extracurricular activities. And all the extracurricular activities, now we have to look out of the school arena. But there aren't enough. So the time that he's losing out here, do you think if the PC party comes to power or the current Liberal Party, will they be able to talk to the universities and convince them to not penalize the child, all these children who will be going up there?
You make an excellent point. I mean, you're right. A lot of the students can demonstrate not only their academic qualifications, but their leadership skills and their involvement by their activities after school in the schools. And different university programs, whether they're here in Ontario or across North America, will look to that. So we can't solve problems outside of our problems. We would look to work with the universities, but I think the best answer is fix the problem now. The answers are out there, so let's fix it now as opposed to looking for a second best solution down the road. And like I said, I don't care what party brings it forward, as long as it gets done. Great. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time. Good questions.